Standing here at the railway station, if one looks across the road, in amongst the sort of the mess of modern buildings, one has a glimpse of a rather magnificent Baroque building. No doubt many wearied travellers as they enter Newcastle seek some sort of relief to the grime and derelict sort of conditions, and it's only a matter of looking across the road and we see this Longworth Institute. Now, it's a very exciting building because this building was designed by Frederick Menkins. And again, probably most people would say, who's Frederick Menkins? Well, as an architect, I'm very conscious of Frederick Menkins because he did a lot in this city. He came here in 1882 with very little backing except his own ability. And in the space of 25 years, from 1882 to 1908, he built up a magnificent practice. And this building that we see here opposite represents sort of the high point of his career. It's a Baroque building. It's the sort of thing that Menkins would dearly love to do. And obviously he had in this particular patron the ideal client, a man of some sort of sensitivity, who's allowed the architect the chance to sort of show his ability and to give to the citizens of Newcastle something really worthwhile. It's a Baroque building. It derives its inspiration from Germany, where Menkins was born. It's got beautiful detail work in it. As you sort of gaze up the building and look there, you see the heroic figures of Hercules and Atlas striving to hold up the beautiful cantilevered oriel windows. Then as you continue to gaze up, you see the striking figure of commerce holding the sphere, which, one would like to think symbolises the prosperity of the city. There's a lot that, that you can see in this building, and the tragedy of it is that, we tend to just pass it by and not see it. And if we look at this example, we see that we've combined here the commercial with the aesthetic. Mr. Woods obviously took some pride in the buildings that he had built for him. He's allowed the architect to use his art. He's allowed the architect to express the spirit of the age. The building is in the ruling style that was abroad at the time. It's a Queen Anne building, and it shows that within sort of the commercial development, it's still possible to have some sort of respect for things that are beautiful. This group of three buildings here is very important in Newcastle. It is unique. It's unique to Newcastle. It's almost unique to New South Wales and perhaps to Australia, because here in this precinct we have three buildings by three different government architects spanning well over half a century. We've got, starting say from the post office corner here, we have a building in high Renaissance style designed by the government architect Vernon, Walter Liberty Vernon, no less. He was the government architect at the time. He was obviously impressed by the Italianate style. It's a replica of Palladian architecture, which was all the rage at that time. It's a beautiful example. It's beautifully built. There's loving details. The craftsmanship is excellent. As we looked along the floor here, you see this beautiful mosaic pattern of sort of a living example of craftsmanship. We only have to sort of compare it with what's been done later. Out on the footpath, we see the crudity of our attempts at patching up pavements. It's well for us to to compare these things and just see how insensitive we are today. Now, if we go further down, we've got the police station, which is an example of Mortimer Lewis's work. It was built initially as a single-storey building back in 1840. Later on, it was extended to a two-storey building, and the second storey was added by Vernon. It's a fairly simple colonial building, and the contrast is quite marked between the richness of the Palladium architecture of the post office and the simplicity of the colonial architecture. Then further along, we've got the group which we now call the Public Works Department, which is actually linked with the CIB. Now here we've got an example of James Barnett's work, another government architect. The building on the corner was originally a post office. Here we've got an example of two buildings built at different periods. There's been an attempt to link them up. If you look along, you'll see a string course which connects the old post office building with the CIB building. There's been modification to the original post office building. The Gothic windows have been changed to a round arch, and the keystones have been elongated to link up with a string line. The two buildings, I mean, to the average person looking at them, they look like they would have been built at the same time. But that's a compliment to the architect, because he's been able to marry the two together. He's not destroyed one in putting the other there. And, you know, so often we look around the city and you see how much we destroy the things around us by just an insensitive approach to building and to the texture of the city. One of the problems that architects and preservation groups face is that there's no legislation to protect buildings from demolition. If one thinks that a building needs to be demolished for some new work, well then all one has to do is to conform with the DLI requirements and go ahead and demolish. But you don't need a building permit or any form of permit. I think it's essential, if we're going to protect our environment and our city from destruction, to have some sort of early warning device. It should be necessary to obtain a permit before one demolishes a building which is of public value. Then at least having gone through the process of obtaining some sort of permit, people become aware, and then the case can be put by the citizens to try and preserve or to modify the development so that it's in accord with the overall character and feel of the city. You know, here we've got the post office, we've got the police, and we have the Public Works Department. Those three bodies should be able to combine to see that this unique precinct is preserved. I think most people realise that the Public Works Department and the police station is threatened. There's a proposal to have a state office block on this site. Now, you know, we're not that short of sites in Newcastle that we can afford to pull down these buildings. If we pull them down, well then that's the end. We can never recreate it, and what we've destroyed is something that is unique, that not only our generation should see, but future generations should see, because it forms the fabric of the city. The fact that we can see side by side different periods of architecture, the early colonial, the Baroque, the High Renaissance, all these things that can be seen as a sort of a living example of architecture and of art. This building's important because it's a brewery building built for the brewery industry. It's a warehouse building. It's of solid construction. It's the sort of building one would see around waterfronts in London, Liverpool. It still has a little bit of architectural flair in it. It's got a sort of French revival